I started my career in a very typical fashion of not having any idea what I want to do after school. Went to grad school or law school because didn't really know 100% what I wanted to invest my time into, but thought skills acquisition would be a good way to start. And then just followed whatever objective I thought most people thought I should be following. So that included getting to a law firm, trying to make partner as fast as possible, climbing the ranks of partnership, representing the most prestigious clients, whatever would be an outward indicia of success. And that was, I would say, phase one of my journey.
And just to orient us in time, how long did phase one take you to complete? And maybe did you complete it successfully? I know the answer, but
you're asking how old I am. So no, phase one, I would say, took about 15 years, 15 years, and ended with me being unable to argue against the fact that I achieved every objective anyone would say that I should be aiming to achieve. And it didn't bring me the satisfaction that I thought it would. And
so it sounds like that's the inflection point where, because I have a similar story and we'll touch on that in a minute, where the idea of maybe doing business more consciously or bringing more mindfulness to business probably started to happen in your life. And maybe we zoom in on that point for a little bit and talk a little bit more about what was empty or what was hollow, because I think that's a pretty common conversation that people have, especially people who are on the fast track or they find a lot of professional success. So what did that look and feel like for you at that moment in time?
Well, when you're so frenetic in your activity and most of your time is spent with noise, it drowns out even the strongest voice you might have inside of you. And that includes a voice saying, maybe I don't want to do this, or maybe, this isn't bringing me the satisfaction I'd like, or maybe I never really thought about what would bring me satisfaction. And it's really hard to hear that voice when you're really driven and working on very, very hard objectives and think that you could control all outcomes. So then you start accounting for all possible outcomes. And, it really engages 100% of you when you're looking for achieving an objective, especially if it's not an objective that you set for yourself, in essence, because then it's a moving target because it's defined by other people's perception. So you could be very successful, but by any measure, but again, it's a moving target because you're letting it be defined by other people. I don't know if I just answered your question. But
it might have been, it might have answered part of it. So are you saying that in chasing objectives set by other people or just by external factors, you weren't finding after a certain point that just started to become less substantial for you? Or you started to, I guess,
no,
when was the
I'm
point
saying,
where you noticed it wasn't working for you
I'm
spiritually,
saying,
personally?
I'm saying I probably never would have noticed because
I see.
I was so engaged in achieving complicated objectives that were also being set by other people's perception. So, in any group, you could be a partner, but still say, okay, I'm a partner, but I don't have enough influence, or I'm a partner who has influence, but I exerted my influence and it wasn't successful in a way that I thought it would, so there is no achieving it on some level. But I think I hit a level of success that said, whatever you set out to achieve, you hit it. And that kind of opened up a lot of space to say, okay, what now? What next? And then it starts making you think about what you set out to do to begin with.
Yeah. And how did that, it's almost this, I don't want to characterize it from my perspective, but it's almost this crisis state is what you're describing, where you've got this space and you don't know where to go with it. Maybe describe how you were feeling at the time and what prompted you to maybe start exploring a different path.
Well, the problem, once you start questioning any aspect of your life, it has a cascading effect to every aspect of your life. So it's very hard to just localize it to my job. It starts playing a role in relationships. It plays a role in everything. And we always say there's no distinction between business and personal. It's because you're the same person wherever you go. So you're bringing that everywhere, and that energy, and the outside is influencing you similarly, and that engagement is the same no matter where you go. So I started questioning everything, and it did cause, as you said, a crisis state, because essentially I had to do the work that I should have done, and that I would strongly recommend everyone do in school, or in the early stages of really defining yourself. Not I shouldn't say that, because you never constrain yourself by defining yourself, but really asking the question of purpose, and what I like, and why I'm here, and analyzing all of that, so that you don't, or being aware of it, not analyzing, being aware of it, so that you don't start pursuing something and taking action, and finding yourself in a state where you don't know why you set off on that course.
Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead.
So the crisis state, it actually led to one night where I was, I just ended a relationship, and was sitting in my apartment, and I remember this feeling of feeling the weight of every molecule in the apartment crushing me, like this utter loneliness, or kind of being adrift. And it was almost like a total sense of I was being crushed down to the atomic level. And I happened to hear about Tonglen meditation, where you imagine everyone in the world who is feeling as you are. And then you realize you're never really alone. And you realize there's something beyond yourself. And I remember just having a catharsis at that moment. And that really set me on my course of mindfulness. And a specific book by Pema Chodron really influenced me very, very heavily.
Mm-hmm. And then at that moment, which seems like a very intense one, how did that translate into what you're doing professionally?
I let go of a lot of control, and let myself be more of an observer, while still executing on things, but kind of more being in the flow than imagining I can control every outcome, or that I can create security for myself, or create what I always call ground beneath my feet. That essentially, there's an amount of money, or an amount of status, or an amount of something that now I'm firmly planted. I'm safe, and accepted that there's never any ground beneath our feet. We're never in this state of having everything under control, because there's so many things that could occur in a moment in time that would take that control away. And I think once I let go of that, it allowed my purpose to find itself, rather than me have to go chasing it.